welcome to the shop, everybody. So I don't have anything, any comments with any questions just yet, but I'm just going to start going through stuff unless you guys give me some comments of what you want to see. So this is my first live stream. My name is Tom Christman, and I just started CNCing here a couple of years ago, and I got this alt mill and the RapidChange ATC and the auto dust boot, just getting things set up. Seems to be a lot of questions. Worked with Don at RapidChange. He may be joining us today if he can figure out if my link works that I gave him. So again, we're just figuring this out. So I am just a guy just like everybody else here, and I've gotten a lot out of YouTube. Learned a ton from Garrett Fromme and CIC Workshop, you know, all the main guys. And so I just want to give back, help you guys out. I'm learning by teaching you as well. I learn a ton of stuff all the time. So we're not always going to talk about RapidChange ATC or the dust boot, but that just seems to be the hot topic these days. And so I'm trying to get through that, get my videos done. And so Dave, you have the Masso G3. So a lot of these things that we do with the alt mill on G-Sender, I'm sure are going to apply. I mean, there's a lot of other settings for the Masso, and I can tell you, if I can speak for Don works with 10 different control softwares for RapidChange ATC. So a lot of the same types of macros, G codes, setups, everything is going to really be the same as far as the physical setup and getting, you know, everything going. It's just, you know, the Masso has different is just a different controller, but a lot of the things are going to be very similar. So feel free to learn things about G-Sender and how we're doing things on G-Sender. It's going to apply, make things a lot easier for you with the Masso. Don will help you out. Don and him and his team, I think he's got his son Thomas that works with him, and so he'll be able to help you out when you get your RapidChange ATC. So yeah. Let's see here. Let's see who's all on here. And I can chat with you guys too. So I have my laptop up. I set this up on my cell phone, and I guess I didn't know any better. I guess I do have this laptop that has the webcam that I could probably be using, but I wanted to be able to turn this camera and show you guys stuff as you guys, you know, have questions. So I don't know. We only have, I think, 2 of you guys on here right now. And I don't know what level you're at, or if you have a RapidChange, if you're looking at buying a RapidChange ATC, if you're looking at buying a dust boot, let me know what you're looking for. It looks like Don's trying to join. So I'll just say, okay, Don. So we'll see if he's able to jump on here. I'm not sure. It might just be mobile. So if you can hear me, Don, I'm on my laptop too, and my laptop on the same channel is really not doing the same thing that my phone is. So my phone is doing all the recording and everything. So this might just be a mobile thing. And so I don't know if you can join on your mobile with that link. So I'll know for next time. So when we go live next Monday, I'll make sure to set this up on the computer and try to do a little research on how we can use multiple cameras. So, but give me some feedback, guys. There's Dave is on here, and Hulk Outs 1977. Let me know what you guys want to see. I'll just start going through the basics of the RapidChange and kind of just start explaining, I guess, the basic setup here. So Let me move my controller out of the way and flip you guys around. So I will move that guy out of the way. So here's my RapidChange cassette. I don't trip over everything here. So here's my RapidChange cassette. So you can push this little button here, opens up the dust cover. So I currently have tool 2 in my spindle. So you have, all your pockets. So I have an 8 pocket, and then I have the tool setter on the side here, and the dust boot. So this is the RapidChange ER20 Premium. So the difference between the Premium and the Pro, so the Pro would be the next one down. It just doesn't have the dust shield. And for me, I'm a messy woodworker, and I don't always use a dust boot, so I definitely needed this dust cover, and it works great. I mean, you can see, turn it on and off, and it does it all automatically, as we can demonstrate. So let's see. So the pockets here, I guess at a basic level, get right down in here. So there's just the bearings in here. There seem to be like they're on little springs. So they're just little ball bearings that sit in there. You can see that. And that's what engages, your nut. So this nut, it's locked in there until you pull it out. And that's what goes down and engages that. And your spindle actually spins on there and actually tightens or removes your collet. And we'll do some demos on that. I'm assuming you guys have seen some of the videos on my channel with my demos and things like that too. So let's see what else. So that's the basics of the RapidChange. So I have mine set up where I pocketed out my spoil board here. So my spoil board, I don't put nails in my spoil board MDF material. I just glue it down, and I just put some weight on it when I make them, and then I glue them down. And there's no fasteners in my spoil board at all. So my base is just 3/4 inch plywood, so that I got some strength there, and that's screwed up from the underside. And then this is just glued on, and I do have T-tracks down in here. Some of the spots I couldn't put screws in because there's the metal frame down underneath that one. And then I actually put these on my table saw, and I dado out so that my spoil board's actually over the top of my T-track. Gives it a little more strength because I kind of tend to crank down on things too hard. So it gives me a little bit more. But yeah, I keep mine lower, right down on my base, so that I have a little bit more headroom here. You can see where my bit is compared to the RapidChange. That bit just clears. And I can move my spindle up a little bit more, but I got it kind of set where my dust shoe works perfect with my spindle as of right now. And that brings me, I guess, to the dust shoe. So this is Francis Creations dust shoe, the automatic dust boot. And so this just mounts up on there. We'll show you that here in a few minutes. And it moves up and down automatically. Super great. Lots of different ways to configure it, but I think the way I got it is on the flood pin along with the ATC on the flood pin. So I'm trying to keep everything as simple as possible. So yeah, when this is on, it just barely clears that ATC. All right, I guess we'll just give you a quick demo of how this thing works. So you got to make sure that your stuff is homed. On G-Sender, when things are homed, your 4 corners will be blue. So if your machine is not homed, those 4 corners will not be blue. So that's that. So I'm just going to step right through this as if, I'm a newbie, which I am a newbie. But this is what I do when I first turn on my alt mill, and I don't know what the machine does or does not know, so I got to figure it out, right? So there's a couple of G codes in one of my videos. I got a G code video out there that kind of explains some of these basic G codes. So if I go to my console, I'll open this up into a bigger console here. So there's a couple of G codes that I've created with macros, and I'll kind of show you that on how to create some G sender macros. So there's two different kinds of macros. There's G sender macros that you can put into the G sender interface, and then there's the macros that you get from RapidChange ATC that go on your SD card. And I can explain that further as well, but we'll see what we get through here today. So I want to know, what does my machine think is in the spindle for a tool? So I know, based on looking at my cassette, tool 2 or pocket 2 doesn't have a tool in it, and the tool's right there, it's in the spindle, so I know it's already in there, but I don't know that my machine knows that. So the macro that Don created, or the RapidChange team, actually I'm going to take this right down to the basic level here. So let's go into my folder for GSender. Actually, I got to go into RapidChange here, and my current macros. So these are what I have for my current macros. So really, all the macro is so P203. So this is actually what's on my SD card, and the only command that's in there is this debug current tool. I don't know all those symbols. So if we literally, instead of using, I'll do this two different ways here to show you how it works. Because all this macro does is actually point this and put this in the command prompt for you. So we open up GSender, and now I can paste this in here, and it puts that same phrase right in my command prompt. And what this is going to do when I run this is it just tells me right here, whoops, touch screen, is it says, where it says client there, and it has the command that I hit enter on, and then underneath that it says message, current tool 2.0000. So the machine thinks it has tool number 2. Super important, because if your spindle doesn't think it has a tool, it's going to go, and if I want to pick up tool 3 and it doesn't think it has a tool, but there's physically a tool in it, it's going to go over tool 3 and it's going to drop right down with the tool I got in the spindle right on top of tool 3. And that's not good for anybody. So you got to know what your machine knows or doesn't know when you first start up. That's why that command is there. The other way to enter this command is using the macros, which was on that file, which is right here. So P203, that macro is on my SD card, P203. So remember P203. So in here, you can enter your G code. So I can enter G, let's do caps, G65. So G65 is a G code that tells this computer to look at the SD card, for the simplest terms. And now we want to tell it to look at P203 and read that. I type P203. So now I got G5P203. And if I hit enter, it did not work. So there's a couple other codes here. So I took my SD card out earlier, so I gotta make sure that I have my SD card mounted. Okay, let's try this again. G65P203. So there's the code, and I'll hit enter. And now Same thing, G652P203. Now it read that command off of that macro on the SD card. So you can do it either way, but RapidChange makes these macros for us to make it easier for us, and then it's integrated automatically kind of into the software. So they're both the same commands. It's just one's in a macro format on the SD card in the controller, or you can manually enter it to get the same information. So the reason I had the error is because my SD card was not mounted, because I pulled my SD card out and I grabbed those macros off there so I could show you guys what the macros were. And when I put it back in, I never recycled my control board. I didn't shut it off, turn it back on, or anything like that. So when you pull it out, it basically removes it, and then when you put it back in, you have to mount it. So in order to mount it, you have to type in this command prompt here, the $sign, and then FM. And if you were to look that up in Google, I'm sure that would tell you that that mounts your SD card. And when you hit enter, it just says OK. So client is the FM code that I put in and hit enter, and it just says OK. So basically it mounted it. The second command that's super important when you're setting this up is to know if this can actually read the SD card. So it says it mounted it, but how do you know what files are on it, right? So that command is $sign. Get rid of this error code here. $sign F plus. And I don't know why that didn't come on there. Let's go here. F plus. $sign F plus. So I'll hit enter. And there you go. It tells you what files are on the SD card. So you know that this computer can read the SD card off the controller down here, where the SD card is. So these are all good testing things when you first start setting up your ATC, start setting up your macros. These are super important to understand how to be able to mount your SD card, how to be able to make sure and verify that your computer can read the SD card and make sure everything is working properly. Otherwise, when you try to do a tool change, nothing will happen. It'll tell you okay, but then nothing happens and you can't figure out why. So this is how you kind of look at that. All right, let me catch up on some texts going on here, see if there's any questions. 8 p.m. would be better if possible. Catslod 2, I don't know if I'm saying that right. 8 p.m. would be better. Is that Central Time or Eastern Time, California time? What are you talking? Superior, Wisconsin, checking in. Okay, you're in Superior, so you're talking Central Time. Okay. So we got the poll on here going. Let's see, the poll is 80% yes and 20% no as of right now. So we'll keep the poll going throughout the whole video here, so we can get a good take on what everybody thinks. So Don is Traverse City, Michigan, just a couple lakes away. Good to have you, Don. Don, chime in here. I know you're not live with me and being able to talk, so we'll get that fixed for the next live stream. But feel free to, let me know anything that you think I need to show these guys. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep on jabbering away and just kind of going through, some basics here to give these guys an idea of how this works, so they kind of know what they're getting into. Emmanuel Ortiz, how you doing, man? Glad to see you. I helped Emmanuel with his setup. He has an alt mill. He has the CNC spindle, 1.5 kilowatt that he ordered with CNC Labs, and we had a couple of little hiccups, and Don jumped right in, helped him out with his reversing some flood pins or doing some things to kind of get things working, because I don't have the CNC spindle. I actually have a Wanyang 2.2 kilowatt, and so my setup was a little bit different, which Don probably, I don't know, Don, what do you think? How much time did we spend together working bugs out in this thing. I bet you if we would have tracked our time, I bet you we got over 60 hours together trying to get this stuff going. So Dave is in Nunica, Michigan. Nunica or Nunica? I'm so bad with names. All right. So I'm all caught up on those. So let's see here. So now you know how to make sure that you got your SD card mounted. You know that your control software here can read your SD card. I'm sure for the Masso, and Don, chime in if I'm wrong. If you know the Masso, um, Dave Kraus on here, he's got the Masso controller. So if he ends up purchasing or getting into this, he'll probably need a little guidance on the Masso, which obviously I'm not familiar with. So if you have any comments or anything for the Masso and how that pertains, and if it's different, feel free to chime in. So the only other thing with the SD card is the SD card has to be for the Altmill Super Longboard EXT 32 gigabytes or less. I started with a 64 gigabyte because I didn't know any better, and that was the smallest one that they had at Best Buy. And it would work sometimes, and sometimes it wouldn't. And the telltale sign is when you go to format your SD card, if it doesn't let you format it to FAT32 and it does some other version of FAT32, then you don't have the right size SD card. So 32 gigabytes or less, I haven't had any issues at all whatsoever. So Masso is very well documented in the web UI. That's great. That's awesome. And maybe we'll get to the web UI stuff here a little bit, and I can kind of show some of that. We'll see. So once we got the controller going here, guys, we have you got it. Well, that's the next thing. You really got to make sure that you can control your spindle, and make sure that your spindle can, spin down to the RPMs. I would say to start with 1200, and I believe the bigger collets that you have or the bigger nuts you have, the higher the RPMs you'll want to go. So I think I have mine set at 2000 or 2100 RPMs, and then it automatically for unloading adds 300 RPMs for unloading to make sure it gets unloaded. So if you're using an ER11 or an ER16, you might be down more around the 1200 to 1500 RPM range. So whatever you're using for a spindle, not only in the software, you have to adjust your software to be able to go down to that level. You also on your VFD have to adjust your VFD to make sure that it can go down to that level of RPMs. And then you also have to make sure you got a spindle that can go in reverse. Otherwise, you can't take your tools off unless you do it manually. So once you have your ATC mounted and you have your SD card set up and you know your controller can read it and your spindle's all set up and you can control it with your G sender or your Masso, and you can turn it on and off at 1200 RPMs. So in G sender, you just go to your spindle laser and you set your speed. I have mine set. Where am I here? I have mine set all the way down, goes all the way down to 0 and all the way up to 24,000. So I could set mine at, say, whatever, 1150. I could turn it on clockwise here, and my spindle is spinning at that low speed. So all very good things to confirm before you really start setting up your macros. So let's go into the RapidChange. Let me see. Where do I find that? Web UI. So I'm just trying to find my stuff. So I got my RapidChange Web UI. I don't think that this is gonna do anything super crazy as far as like giving away any of my information or anything like that. But so these are some macros. These are probably set wrong right now because I was working with Emmanuel and helping him get some macros until he had his stuff kind of fixed on the back end. And so Don says the H100 VFD needs to have program F011 needs to be set to 0. Okay. So that is for the CNC spindle, I'm assuming, Don, in the VFD. All right. So when you're coming in here, what you need to do is you need to document a few things. All right. So I am just going to go to my G sender and I'm going to go to my coolant. And it doesn't matter. We're not really using coolant, obviously, here, guys. We're using M8, which is the flood pin that everybody's talking about. And then M9 is the code to turn it off. So if I turn my flood pin on, M8, it opens up that, and then let me turn it off. And then it also raises my dust boot. So I have both of these on the flood pin together. And I don't know if we're going to get that deep tonight on all that, on how I got my programming set up, but that'll be a video for another time. So when you set this up, and I'm not going to go through the full setup here, but you basically, let me do a tool change. I want to get to my tool 1 position. So I'm just going to turn that off. I'm going to do a tool change here. So I'll show you how to do a tool change. Just type in, do a manual tool changes, M6, T1, hit enter. And I'm going to hit the E-stop here, right there. So I just hit my E-stop so that I can show you guys kind of how to set this guy up. Okay. So let me unlock my machine. Okay. So what the first macro that you're going to need off of the web UI for RapidChange, let me see if I can get this out of here. Oh boy. Come on. It's in the way. Hang on, I got to move this up. All right. So I just put, you put a tool hand tight into the spindle. If I can do this, hang on, I got to put you down. All right. So I put the tool into the spindle, just hand tight, and I'm right centered over my pocket. So there's a tool on RapidChange that I have over here. So Don and his team, this comes in your RapidChange ATC kit, and you put this up in your spindle, and this is like a little beveled edge so that you can put this right down on your pocket, and when you move in the Y direction or the X direction, this you can just keep adjusting it and tweaking it until you get it just centered perfect. And once you get it perfect, you note your positions here. So X is 30.362 for me, and Y is 2.196. But you got to do that, I believe, in millimeters. And then what you do is you have your P200 macro. That's that first macro. I'm sorry for the shaky screen. I guess I'll try to set this down and give you a little better view here. Definitely, well, either way, I'm going to be on my phone when I do this stuff. So now you want to lower your Z down in your pocket. And what that does is it blocks the sensor. So I'll show you these sensors. So there's a sensor. How well you can see it. There's a sensor there. You can't really see it. And there's a sensor. You can kind of see it right there. It's in a little hole right there. So these sensors can see each other. And this is when you get the Pro or the Premium version. The Basic, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, I thought maybe you mentioned that even your basic one was going to have that sensor maybe. I don't know. But for now, I think on the website it just shows the Pro and the Premium have the sensor. And one of the tools you're going to use is this Calibrate tool up here. I'm not sure what the Masso has, but they should have something similar. And this is going to show your different pins. So here's your probe TLS pin, which is what we have that sensor connected to on the controller, along with the tool offset. So you can see right now that that's on, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise this up, pull that out of the pocket. So now it's out of the pocket. So what it's measuring, it's not the tool, it's the collet nut is what it senses, okay? So I go back in here to this Calibrate tool, and now you can see that probe TLS is off. So you want to put this down in there with your Z until it blocks that sensor. So I'm down in the pocket. I'm not super deep. I'm not pushing on the springs down in there, nothing like that. And now I go to my Calibrate tool, and I can see that it's on, and I'm blocking that. Okay, so once you have that set, then you just go in here and you type in, remember the G65. So that's going to tell the computer to read from the SD card. And the macro, so here's the macros. So 203 is what we used before. And that's what tells us what our current tool is. So now we're going to use the 200. So the only time you use this 200 macro is when you're setting up and trying to find your Z location for the web UI, which we're going to get into next. And these are all the different commands in there. You don't need to know these commands. They provide these all to us. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that. So now we have G65. We're going to put P200. And then I'll zoom in here and I'll hit enter and I'll show you what that does. So we're just going to hit run. And it's slowly coming up. And it stopped. See that? It stopped right there. So that's right when it cleared that sensor. That's what that macro does. And what you want to look for now is on your go all the way down here, so it gives you a message. So record Z position, machine coordinate minus 81.877006. So that should be the metric equivalent to this negative 2.822. So let's verify that, make sure I'm correct. So I can go in here to my settings and I can change this to millimeters. This is the only place in G-Center you can change from inches to millimeters and back and forth. Otherwise, you don't want to do it in your firmware. You'll mess things up. Firmware has to stay to millimeters all the time. So now that I changed that, it tells me my Z is negative 71.67. And this one's telling me to record position negative 81.877.006. So I'm going to assume here, Don, because it knows it's at negative 71.675. So that's the tolerance. So it pulls it up. Well, that would be down further in. But that's what it's telling you to record. So for me, I recorded the negative 71.67, and that's what I put in my macros on the web UI, which we're going to do now. So I think I got that right. But that's what the P200 does. And that's really the only time that you're ever going to use that P200 macro is if you relocate your ATC, or you're first setting it up, or something gets hairy with your programming, or you manually adjust your spindle height. So if you know, unbolt your spindle here and loosen that up and physically push your spindle up or down to meet with a new dust boot, or maybe you're working on a super thick piece of material and you just got to raise it up. If you want to do automatic tool changing, now you got to redo the P200 macro and go into the web UI at RapidChange and adjust the settings, save your macros, put them on your SD card, and then you'll be good to go. So that's the P200 macro. All right. Still don't have any other comments or anything here, so we'll keep on rolling. All right. So this is the RapidChange. It doesn't allow me to rotate my screen here, guys, so I'm going to do the best I can with my phone. So in the macros here, so remember we recorded the X and Y position using that little flat disc. Where'd that go? So you got this little flat disc, and we put that in there, and we put it down on the first pocket, and we adjusted this stuff until that was perfectly flat and centered, and then we documented those coordinates for X and Y. This is where you're going to put them in your pocket positions here. So you just click on it here, you enter your X position, your Y position should always be a negative number unless you change some major settings in your software. And then this is where you would put your Z position that we just got off the P200. And then you just click the check mark, and that's good to go. Okay. Once you do that, some of these other settings are automatically adjusted based on what information you put in here. So it keeps it really simple. It's a super awesome web UI. So it's important to get those 100% correct. Okay. So now the next thing you'd want to put in here, and by the way, here's all your macros right on this web UI. So this is on the RapidChange ATC website. You'll get a profile. Mine's CNC Hal, NWWI Workshop, and you'll have your own, and then you'll have your own macros right here. So you can copy them to your clipboard, I guess, into your computer, and you can paste them into a notepad file. But best way is to just download them. I download them all and put them in there, or you can download them individually. And then just put these macros, you want to get them on your SD card so that your computer can run them. So that's where they come from. So these will be like grayed out or blued out, and you won't be able to download these until you finish your setup in here to make sure you got everything set. So if you don't have a tool setter, you can disable this, I believe, right here in more options. If you got one that's in a pocket, or an external or an internal. So I believe internal is the one that I have that's actually mounted on the ATC and part of it. So you can kind of customize whatever type of tool setter you have. Highly recommend getting the tool setter that attaches to your magazine from RapidChange. Super nice. And the tool setter position, again, you're going to have an X and a Y, and your Z start is where you're going to want your Z to start probing. So you got to pick your longest bit, and you're going to want to put it over top of your tool setter. So that's where my tool setter is, right above that blue light. And whatever your longest tool is, set it just, I don't know, 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch or whatever above that. And that's where it'll wrap it down to that spot, and then it'll start seeking and doing your tool set. Make sure it's your longest bit, because if you do a short bit and you set it, then when you pick up a long bit, it's going to go and it's going to crash into that thing. You're going to be ordering another one. All right. And then your XY position for the tool setter, you literally pick up your spindle, manually move it over above the tool setter, right where you want it in the center. Take a look at your G sender or your Masso or whatever you're looking at, and use the black or gray numbers for your X and your Y. And whatever that setting is, make sure you're homed so that everything is correct, and use these gray numbers. And that's what you're going to put in your tool setter position for X and Y. And once you get those put in there, you just hit the green check mark, and then that'll be good to go. Your tool measure, you can adjust your seek distance and your feed rates here of how fast you want it to go. So this is set to 20 right now for manuals that we did. I had mine set at 60 because I do mine fast. And when I set mine to 60, it gives me this error here. Seek feed tells you kind of what it should be for recommended, but I set mine to 60, and so I can do super fast tool changes, which I'll show you, and you don't have to sit here and waste time watching this slow thing slowly go down. It's super accurate. When this one from RapidChange ATC. So that is that for the tool measure. And you come down to the manual position. Now the manual position is where you want your spindle to go if there's a failure. So it is possible that if you hand put on your collet nut and you hand tighten it and you crank it on there, and when it goes to unload it, if you crank it on there too tight, it might not be able to unload it. So that can happen. So that's what the sensors are for on there, is so if it doesn't clear that sensor, when it unloads it, it's going to know that, and it's going to come to your manual position that you put in here. So my manual position, I'll make sure I raise this up before I do anything. So my manual position is like, I don't know, like right there. So it comes all the way up to me. So if I got to make sure that when you're running things or doing things, you understand where your manual position is from everything. So if it fails, it's going to come all the way up to you, and you're going to get an error on here that's going to say tool didn't load, um, and or didn't unload, or whatever the condition was because of those sensors. And either it didn't load or it didn't unload. So you just fix whatever the problem was, and either manually unload it and go stick it in your cassette, or go get it out of the cassette and manually put it in here. I'm going to use the bad word here, Don, of cross thread. I've never had a cross thread condition yet. And I have run production on this machine, a lot of production already with this RapidChange, and I still have yet to have a cross thread. I just don't think it's a thing. So that's, you hear that on YouTube, on some other videos and things like that. People are worried about cross threading with this thing. It's a non-issue, guys. So once this comes to manual position, you do what you got to do. And then on this spot right here on G sender, this is where you'll click on here, and then it'll continue with the program, and it'll go measure the tool. So if it didn't load it and it came to you, you just got to make sure you load it, get it where you want. Once you hit go, now it's going to assume you put the tool in it because it told you to, and it's going to go measure that tool. Okay. So that is what the manual position is all about. It's only when you have an issue. Magazine layout. So I will move my deal here. So I hit my e-stop and I didn't rehome this thing yet. So I'm going to put this guy up, and I'm going to home my machine just to make sure that I'm safe and I don't crash into anything. You laughing at me, Don? let's see. Yeah, so the magazine layout. So that's homed. So the magazine layout, so I have mine set up in the X location, the X orientation, which is left and right. This would be the Y orientation. Like if you set it up on the side of your machine over here or up at the front here, but you got an X and a Y orientation. So I have mine set up and I'm telling it that this is my first pocket and I'm in the X positive direction. So positive is to the right, negative is to the left. So it's going to automatically, once I give it this one position, it's automatically going to calculate all the other pockets in the macros automatically. So we don't have to do every pocket, just the first one. And then my tool setter's over there. You could turn this around, but obviously I wanted to have my light facing me. So I know that it's on. So that's why I put it in this orientation. Yeah, cross-threading's a bad word in this market here. All right, so I homed my machine. So that's magazine. So in here, so you can do the X-axis. And so I know I said mine's in the positive, which it is. So again, I was setting this up with Emmanuel. So this is backwards. So you can just set this to positive or negative, depending on where your first pocket is. So if your other pockets are to the right, it's positive. If your first pocket for tool 1 is going to be on the right and you're going to go to the left, that's going to be in a negative direction on the X-axis. And then this is the pocket offset, and this is set automatically because Don knew that I had an ER20, so this was automatically populated. There's different pocket offsets for different magazines. So the ER11, ER6, I think the ER16 and 20 are the same. ER11 is different. ER25 is probably different. So Don would have the answers to those. All right. And then here you got your Z move heights. So you can, the only thing that you can adjust here is your Z clearance. So I set mine to 0. So this is what you have to set. So when it's making its moves to go do a tool change, if you have a surprisingly high spindle and you want to have a lower Z height for your bit to clear everything when it's doing tool changes, you can put a setting in there. I keep mine to 0 because the alt mill is so fast that it doesn't matter. I just keep it at 0. And so anytime this goes to do a tool change, my Z goes up to 0 and it goes and does its thing. Super easy for me. Z move to load, Z move to measure, those are automatically calculated in the macros. If you need help with those, you can reach out to Don if you have some kind of custom setup. Because those are adjustable, but that's a whole another level. Tool detection, Z start, Z target. Again, these are not configurable. This is just telling you what it is. And then, of course, I have a dust cover. And so you can put in your dwell time. You can change your pin here. So P0, P1, P2, P3, and P4, I believe those are for the auxiliary pins on the super longboard. If you're going to use your, the M64 commands and things like that. So I'm keeping everything simple in everything that I do to use the flood pin as the simplest operation here. And that's it. Once you get your macros set up in here, just like I explained, these should all be lit up in here. You can download your macros and get them onto your SD card. And at this point, now you can start testing tool changes. As long as you have everything that I've talked about in this video up till now, that's it. That's everything that I can think of. So, yes, there's some things you need to purchase. You need to get some additional collets. You got to get some additional collet nuts. Get some additional bits, to populate your thing with. And so there's all of that. But as far as setting up the RapidChange, that's really it, guys. I mean, there's not really that much more to it. There are other G-code commands. I got some videos out there of all the different G-code commands. There's a lot of next level programming that you can do. You can modify your post processors, which I guess that reminds me, we do have a post processor that Don has on the website. Let's go back there. So let's go to the dashboard. So here's where you can get, if you go to your dashboard, so if you go to your profiles and you click on your profile, that takes you to your macros, which we were just in. I don't know if you saw that. So you go to your profile, hit your profile, takes you to your macros. You go to your dashboard. This is where you can get some, you can change your units from imperial to metric if you choose to. So you can edit some of these things. You can edit your name, basic stuff. Here you can download. They should automatically populate this for the what you've purchased from them. And these are your different DXF files that you can put into Vectric or whatever your CAM software is, or CAD software. And you can pocket out, whatever you need for your stuff. It has the hole sizes. There's a couple of pins for physical setup. So you can download those files here so you can get things physically set up. You can download your firmware, all the firmware settings that I would need for my super longboard. If I downloaded this, I could just put that. That's a hex file for firmware. Yeah, so that must be right. I was thinking JSON files, but those are different macros. So here you can get your firmware. So they have customized firmware for your specific setup. So when you order your RapidChange ATC, you got to give them all this information of what you have for a control board,